You're listening to Blue Please here on cynicalbrit.com, which is currently down at the moment because we kind of broke it.
Yeah, you are with too much.
Yeah, we hit the server a little bit too hard. Might have to upgrade, I think, once the paychecks start coming in.
We need a bigger pipe.
Yeah, we do. We need a bigger boat. It's all good, though. Here with Bunkerface, marketing manager for cynicalbrit.com.
Hey, guys.
Yes, and we're going to be talking a little bit about zones, really, and zone aesthetic.
And story.
Yeah, indeed.
It's a bit of a broad topic. I mean, we've talked about Uldum, but we're actually also talking about all the other zones. I mean, have you seen this? We've mentioned Netherstorm.
Netherstorm, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these zones show in their aesthetic what they're about.
Well, yeah, it's about telling a story by displaying visuals and various different themes. So, why exactly would we talk about this? Well, the reason we would talk about that is simply because of Uldum. So, the story with Uldum is this. Last night we did a video of Uldum whereby we flew around the outside of the invisible wall that's stopping you from getting in there.
And horribly died.
Yes, repeatedly. So, it doesn't matter, because we got some good shots and we did a pretty good video of it. But then we were alerted by a couple of viewers that it might be possible to get in and bypass the invisible wall entirely.
We're not going to tell you how you do that.
No, we're not going to tell you how you do that. No, we're not going to be in the business of doing that because, hey, it's probably going to annoy Blizzard enough that we went in there to begin with. I'm hoping not, really. I mean, if they've got any common sense, they'll realise that a 30-minute video of probably the best-looking zone they've ever put together is nothing but fantastic marketing for them.
They're not going to be irritated by that. They will be irritated if we tell them how.
If we tell you how to get in, then that could be a bit of a problem. So,
yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So we made our way in there, and we looked around everything we could possibly find. I mean, we scoured that place.
Pyramids.
Yeah, there were pyramids, there were tombs, there were ancient temples, there were big statues, there were hieroglyphs, there were settlements as well. Yeah, lots of settlements, there were aqueducts, there were the floating towers, the sky dome, a sky wall even.
And the strange rolling submarine drill thing.
Yes, exactly. There's lots of very cool stuff in there. And the zone isn't fully populated yet because it's not ready, honestly. So, yeah.
A lot of really interesting earthen designs, though.
Yes, a lot of cool earthen stuff and everything. And honestly, it was probably the best zone I've ever seen out of all of them. Completely.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yes. It looks good. It really does look absolutely fantastic. And I'm very much impressed by that. So, why does that matter? I think that's probably the most important thing to say. For someone who, say, is like me and really only cares about the raiding and stuff, why would aesthetic matter?
Do you like leveling in blasted lands?
No, because it's boring.
That's the reason.
Right, okay. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Theoretically, you could do the same 4 types of quest in a white box, and you would get your levels. But it's best if you were to do it in somewhere that's actually interesting. That might give you a little bit of engagement in terms of the story.
Killing mobs in a white box would mean you're playing a Korean MMO.
Yeah, pretty much. It would be a grind fest. It would be a total waste of time. The aesthetic matters. And it even matters in raids. In fact, it especially matters in raids, because you're seeing it in week out basis. It's important that you have something interesting to look at.
Where do you like raiding more? Molten Core or
Ulduar?
Ulduar, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ulduar looks way, way cooler than Molten Core ever was. So, it's something that a lot of people should care about, even if they don't really care about questing or lore or storyline or RP or anything along those lines. They should care about how something looks, simply because it's just more fun to do it in more interesting scenery.
Yeah, and I'm always older. I'm looking forward to what Twilight Highlands it's called.
Yeah, I've only seen a few screenshots of that, and it mostly seems to be, well, a highland.
Silithus.
What about it? Well, in terms of the way it works? And the way it looks?
Pretty much.
Yeah, Silithus, man, I mean, I don't know it's the best looking zone, but there is a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to do, and that's pretty important to me too.
Yeah, I mean, that hasn't actually changed in Cataclysm thus far. I don't know if they're intending to do that. They might be.
They have to.
Well, they don't really have to, though. I mean, they don't have to change every single zone.
Name me a zone that isn't changed next to Silithus.
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Well, everything in TBC, everything in Northrend as well. Definitely.
Yeah, okay, I'm talking about Azeroth.
Azeroth... well, Coldridge has barely changed. Dunmorrow has barely changed, I'll tell you that. There are a few things, honestly.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think you're probably right that they should really change everything. So, Silithus we haven't seen, but Silithus is a really good zone, at least it was when they first brought it in. And a lot of that was not just due to the fact that they had good quests. It was because the whole Twilight storyline, the old gods and the Kiraji and all that cool stuff going on is actually interesting.
It's all out of date, and you need 200 people in that zone to be interesting.
Yes, you do. But it was great when they brought it out. I did it when they first brought it out, and it was fantastic. Really good fun. I remember doing the boss fights. I was on a PvP server, of course. It's not just the boss fight. You've got to fight the other dudes as well. It's that the summonable world bosses were pretty tricky.
I remember ganking the guy summoning bosses.
Yeah. I remember doing that on... Oh, what was it? We did it a bit on Azuragus, but it was way funnier on the big dude, Kazakh. Yes,
oh,
Kazakh,
yes.
that's the one.
Griefing that one with level 1s was bannable at a certain point?
It became bannable at one point, yes. PvP there wasn't bannable, but griefing with level 1s and just throwing him at Kazakh to give him buffs and health back, yeah, that was griefable. That was a bannable offense as far as I'm aware. It's good stuff, but when it comes down to it, the Silithus Zone had a really intriguing theme to it. It's not just about story and lore. It's about... simply...
The zone itself was kind of bland in aesthetic. I mean, it was one thing, that's it.
It's about theme. It's about the general feel of the zone as a result of what's going on in the story. And you don't have to be uber immersed into the quest text to realise that.
True.
That's the thing. You can see it. It becomes visual. That's why I was really intrigued to look at Uldum. The thing about looking at Uldum right now is that Uldum isn't complete and it's actually not very populated. But that's even better because you can speculate. It's like, what is this? What's going on here? And you can really let your imagination run wild a little bit. You don't have to be led by the nose in terms of storytelling to get immersed in the story of a zone.
I mean, we saw some crazy moving plates and crazy red glowing crystals.
There's a freaking laser drill. There's a laser drill in one of those things. We flew into this big temple, and we found this beam, and we looked down, and it was this giant crystal laser drill, training a giant borehole down at the earth. We flew down it about 40 or 50 feet, and then we saw what appeared to be a kill zone down there, so we didn't want to fly into that. But it's like, what is this, and why is it here, you know?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's hilarious, and really cool. The stuff about the Tolvir is really awesome as well. There's not very many of them. There's like 3... Well... There's 3 Tolvir that are not buried in sand that we could find.
And we saw very aggressive camels.
Yes, indeed. Very aggressive camels, actually, come to think of it. It's really great in that regard that you do get to explore and piece the story together yourself. So I wonder maybe if Blizzard has to be a little bit hands-off with it. Because a lot of the Silithus stuff is not just fed to you directly. And you can understand, you can get a feel for what's going on and the mystery of what's going on simply by actually playing the zone.
Just by seeing all the creatures and stuff, you can actually make out the story. What's happening there.
Yeah.
All the night elves dying in the area to the left of the
zone, of course, exactly.
All that stuff is really helping.
Speculation's cool, because the problem with MMOs is that they don't really leave an awful lot to the imagination in terms of the storyline, and I think that's missing from a lot of games. You don't have to explain the lore to the finest detail. Why don't you just let people actually go and say, hey, I'm just going to look at this and I'm going to come to my own conclusion here. And it doesn't matter if it's canon. Who cares if it's canon, you know?
Or bacon.
What?
I'm just saying.
Who cares if it's bacon? Well, I don't personally care if it's bacon at all. But
the thing I mean is the game itself doesn't have to show you what it is. 50% of the people or more don't care about the lore. They care about what they think of the game. Yeah,
well, it's what they see and how entertained they are. And Blizzard turns around and asks, are you not entertained? And some people who read the quest text says, well, yes, Blizzard, we are entertained by reading this quest text. And everyone else says, Blizzard, you need to make better zones. No, we don't care about quest text. We want to see cool stuff. And the Goblin area's got a lot of that. The Goblin starting zone. But then, again, it's like, which of those 2 zones is, let's say, between the Goblin and the Worgen, is more immersive?
Worgen,
yeah. But a lot of the stuff for Worgen is quest text, so how can that be immersive?
It's not entirely quest text, though. You've got a lot of voiceover, and the aesthetic of the zone is way more grim-dark.
Yeah, and they show a lot of things. Because of the amount of phasing, they're able to show things progressing, which is what they weren't able to do previously.
I would actually say people with a short
attention
span would like the Goblin Zone better, I think.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got the attention span of a goldfish, ladies and gentlemen, Goblin Zone's just for you. It was designed with you in mind. So that's what, 90% of the WoW player base?
All the Alliance players.
It's too hard. I have to focus more than 15 seconds. I don't know what's going on. Dear Lord. Oldham, to me, seems like there's a lot of opportunities there to really tell a great story.
Without actually telling the story in a quest text.
Yeah, exactly. But think about aesthetic for a second. It doesn't matter if you've got a great story if the zone isn't interesting to look at. It's why Netherstorm was one of my favourites. It was one of yours as well, as I recall.
Yes, it is. It's the zone I've spent most of the time in
yeah,
PvC.
I spent a lot of time in there as well. It was very unique in the way that it looked. I liked the whole sort of techno-fantasy thing with the otherworldly demon stuff going along.
Yeah, especially the mines. I really like the way they did those elven parts on top of the mines, and the how's that instance called? I forgot.
I don't have any idea which one.
The 5-man, the first one you go in.
Oh, the Mechanar.
The Mechanar,
yes.
Mechanar, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that the whole zone seemed to be geared towards something. Like, this zone exists for a purpose, and this appears to be some kind of gigantic industrial operation, and it all leads through to Kael'thas at the end.
Yes.
And, all of this culminates. It's nice that you've also, of course, got dungeons with different themes, but they're all part of the same area. So they're all linked together in some way.
Although, how's the lower right zone called again? Shadow Moon? Shadow...
Well, Shadow Moon Valley.
Shadow Moon Valley.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, but it also had the same story... way of telling the story.
Yeah, all the way up to Black Temple. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. It was very well tied together in that regard, and again, you didn't have to pay too much attention to the lore to realize what was going on. It was something that, Netherstorm was obvious, like, hey, Kael'thas is mucking about in Netherstorm, and all of this is really cool. And Shadow Moon was like, oh, look, Illidan is mucking about in this zone, and everything's also really cool. I didn't like it as much as I liked Netherstorm. I thought Netherstorm was a much better zone. But then there were areas like Blade's Edge that I just didn't give a damn about.
Blade's Edge was terrible.
Yeah, I didn't care about Blade's Edge. I cared a bit about Zangarmarsh because there was a lot of creepy cool stuff going on that, again, linked well into the instances.
Yeah, true. All zones that build up to an instance get a plus for me, because that's always a good thing.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the best way to tie the story together in a way that PvE players, like raiders and things, really care about. Makes perfect sense. You think about some of the instances in Wrath compared to TBC, because you've got Hellfire Peninsula had a bunch of instances that all tied together. Zangarmarsh was actually one of the best ones in that regard, because all of the Zangarmarsh stuff that was going on at the top, on the surface, was linked together to what was going on below the surface in all of the Zangarmarsh instances there. And then you had stuff, then you got stuff in Wrath like, well, one example would be Violet Hold. It's got a very tenuous link to what's going on with the Blue Dragon flight, and that's really about it, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got the...
the Infinites in there as well, aren't they?
Yeah, true. Yeah. I'm so bad at zone names. The lower right one in Wrath of Lich King.
Howling Fjord, is that?
Howling Fjord,
Dragonblight?
yeah.
Howling Fjord.
The Howling Fjord zone, the entire top part of that zone is a introduction to the first instance.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of good examples of that, and I think that really does actually matter in terms of the storyline. So, Oldham is looking really cool, and I do absolutely 110% want to see way more of that stuff. I want to see better storytelling, and when it comes to actual questing, I would just like to have a storyline that's introduced to you as you play and not force-fed to you via reams of text.
Yeah.
It's a bad way of delivering a message. It really is.
Like A4 quest text.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, read the quest text to understand the lore of the zone. Why don't you just show me in events and in the way that the zone is actually constructed and in who's in the zone? That's the best way to tell the story visually. This is a computer game, it's not a novel. We don't need reams upon reams of written exposition.
I can't think of a zone in vanilla that did that, but there are zones that did that. Like Western Plaguelands did that.
That was pretty bad, yeah. It was just, hey, look, there's stuff, and there's cauldrons, and there's more cauldrons, and all of the lore you're really just going to find in the quest text, and Scholomance was barely linked into it in any way. It's like, it's an undead school of the damned. Is it linked into the zone all that much? Not as far as I can tell.
Razorfen Down was the best thing that way, I think.
I don't think anyone's ever said that, ever. Razorfen Down was the best at anything, honestly.
No, actually, it's part of the zone. Razorfen Crawl, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, Razorfen Down's bad, man. Crawl was okay, but yeah. So yeah, that's my conclusion on that. Oldham's going to be awesome. There'll be a video up. If you're a podcast listener, you should have it by the time that you listen to this. If not, then you need to go check on my YouTube channel. Go subscribe to it. That'll give you all the deliveries, and once my website's back up, everything will be just fine, I'm sure. My name is Total Biscuit.
My name is Bunkerface.
So I've been told, indeed. So we're going to play some music. That sounds like a fairly good idea. Do we have something Egyptian for Oldham? I don't know.
I've no clue. Maybe.
Yeah, actually, I do. Tad Rose with Anubis. There we go. We'll play that one for you.
Sounds
We're right back after this to talk to you about Blizzard's new talent design philosophy, as well said by them. Enjoy.